Volcha, welcome to another Imbas Dispatch. I was feeling called to send this today just under the energy, the luminous energy of the full moon. And I have another card for you today from my emerging Celtic Dream Oracle, which is all about ancient symbols from our ancestors that can guide and inform our modern or contemporary lives. And the card I have is called Remember Your Soul. And it is in honor of the story, the myth, the archetypal energy and image of Étaín, Étaín Ochraja, which means Étaín the horse rider, Étaín of the horses, who is one of our mythical ancestors. So have my candle here as always. So yeah, we'll just light the Tinanefa, the sacred fire, just to open up this space, seeing the fire as well as, that luminous full moon light to guide our path at this time. So yeah, so just Fáilte Isteach Étaín, welcoming in Étaín's story today. And yeah, I guess maybe to start with, who is Étaín? So some of you will be familiar with her, some of you not. She is presented in the mythology initially, we get the sense that she's just a regular woman, a mortal woman. And this is often the way with Celtic mythology. You actually don't know the supernatural status essentially of someone. But Étaín is actually a fairy woman. She's also a shapeshifter, and she is likely an old sovereignty goddess as well. And we know her from a beautiful myth. It's one of the oldest myths that we have in terms of that was written down, because the language dates from the 8th century. It could have existed for a very long time in the oral culture before. And it is called Tuckmark Édaoine, and that means the wooing of Étaín. So there's a whole genre of Irish myths that are dedicated to wooing, to this sense of romance and partnership, which we can look at, literally, but we can also look at in terms of sacred union within ourselves as well. And for me, Étaín is a symbol and always has been. There's just something about her that really, like when I feel into where she lives in my body, it's like she's in a portal at the back of my heart, right? The backspace moving into the ancestral realm. She is that energy of soul for me. And I really see similarities between Étaín and the journey, the story of Psyche in Greek mythology, Psyche being the word for soul, for that breath of life. And I guess why do I say remember your soul about Étaín? I say this because hers is a journey of initiation, transformation, initiation, metamorphosis, transformation, remembering all of it. And just in, very brief summary, Étaín is taken from her father's kingdom to go and live with Meader the Proud, who is a fairy king, to go and live in his fairy mound. Now, we don't know whether Étaín wants to go or not, because the decision is made by her father when Meader comes seeking. And, you could kind of look at this a little bit as the kind of the energy of Hades, who takes Kore, abducts her basically into the underworld, right? As a symbol of initiation. Now, this is different, right? Because the underworld is not the other world. The other world in the Celtic tradition is more so the veil between worlds. It's the realm of the ancestors. It's the realm of the goddesses and gods. It is the place that the soul travels to. It is the unconscious. It is also the land. It is so many things. And so, whether it's not, it's not an abduction in the sense that she's given away by her father, but it is an initiation, right? Because she's now leaving the father's house right? And, the shelter of that, and has to forge her own path, find her own way with this new fairy king, for a partner. Like, she's been initiated into the other world. And, Meader is like with all mythology, right? We'd like the characters to be, how we want them to be. But, he's a difficult character as well. He's quite narcissistic, but has also his good qualities as an archetypal image of the masculine. But when Étaín goes to his fairy mound, she's met by his wife, Fumnock. Fumnock is an incredibly talented druidess. She's a Bandri. She has trained with a powerful druid called Bressel. And so she possesses a lot of gifts. And basically, in a fit of jealousy, using her purple rowan wand, Fumnock transforms Étaín into a pool of water. And this is also important, right, around the inner journey, because often it's the darker aspect of the feminine that will move through us and, cause a change in our lives, right? Sometimes change is external, something happens in our lives that causes the internal change, but sometimes it moves from the inside out as well. And interestingly, in, the Irish tradition, in the cauldrons of poesy, for example, it speaks about, which is an ancient text, that's very philosophical about, the soul's path, essentially. It talks about how we experience four great sorrows in our lives that, ultimately help us become who we're called to be. And one of those sorrows is jealousy, right? So again, this is another initiatory moment for Étaín. And so if you can imagine, right, she's this pool of water, right? Water, like a pool of water, you cannot get more unconscious than that, right? She's in the unconscious. She is no more. She's no more the mortal woman, that has come to this household. She is completely transformed. And, in this pool of water, what happens then is all of the elements start to work together, right? So the myth tells us that, the kind of the energy of the fire in the room, the heat of the air, the fever, says the fever of the earth, right? Come together and start to work with the water. So you've all the elements here. And, the root of the word fever in Latin means to boil or to glow. So the earth is working, it's boiling this water, it's making it glow. And like for me, I see the image of Étaín as a pool of water when the elements start to work all around her, that she starts to remember. She starts to remember who she is. And transformation starts to happen then. So she first becomes like a worm, and then this worm becomes this beautiful purple fly, right? Which is the size of a head, right? So imagine my head is this purple fly, or your own head. And it has these exquisite jewels for eyes. The sweetness of its music is said to quench any thirst or hunger that anyone may have, right? So it's providing nourishment to the soul's hunger. And it also, it sprinkles droplets from its wings that could heal a plague, right? So it's incredibly healing image of Étaín in this metamorphosis, in this transformation. And of course, right, she's left her womanly form, she like, and it was totally beyond her control, right? That's the thing with shape-shifting. Sometimes the shape-shifting comes from an embodied place in the mythology, like say the Morrigan, and in her crow form, the Badov. But other times it's actually part of an initiation, and the protagonist, like Étaín, has no choice, right, but to transform. And what's really interesting for me in this is that everyone recognizes her. So even when she's in the transformation that she did not desire, she knows, she remembers her soul. She remembers the essence of who she is, and her, almost like the essential oil, and everyone around her knows. Like, everyone around her knows that it's Étaín. She looks different, like completely different, but everyone knows, and they're healed themselves by witnessing her transformation and by being present to her transformation. And, look, the tale eventually goes on to like Fumnock, not satisfied with her magic, has a triplicity in mind, right? So Étaín is cast in wretched winds around Ireland and all of this until eventually she actually lands on the beam, a roof beam in a house, a feasting hall in a banquet hall, belonging to a king called Étaín. She is just like literally falls to her death, right? She's just dying with exhaustion, and she lands in the goblet, in the Grail cup, right? Really powerful image here. The Grail cup here as a vessel of transformation of the queen, and the queen drinks her. And Étaín flows into the queen, somehow by magic enters the womb space, and the queen becomes pregnant. And then she gives birth to a daughter who she calls Étaín. And the time that we're given between Étaín's first life and her reincarnation is 1,012 years, or 1,002 years in some sources as well. So over 1,000 years have occurred, and this speaks to the idea of the soul traveling through time in the form of a bird or in the form of a fly that we see in many traditions as well. And in her new life as a womanly form, she has to again remember who she is. And Meader travels through time, right? Because he exists in Tiernan Og time, right? In otherworldly time. He travels through time to find her and to help her remember who she truly is. Because you cannot go back. That's the thing with transformation. Well, you can go back, but it can have catastrophic consequences for the soul, and so even when we're in pain, we have to just stay present to the metamorphosis and go through. So just a few words about remembering your soul inspired by this story. So some of the key words I have here: initiation, shape-shifting, metamorphosis, reincarnation, remembering. And then the symbols we have, just the incubator, this sense of incubation, right, of the vessel that's going to hold us through the transformation, like the pool of water and all of the elements working together, but also the Grail cup and the womb are all symbols of the vessel that is needed for the transformation as well. So we've got incubator, water, spark of transformation, and those beautiful purple wings as well. And so just in terms of a journal prompt, and I'll prop this in the email as well, like something to consider is, what do I need to remember when I'm shape-shifting, when I'm in a process of metamorphosizing? So, when you're in a process of change, when you know that you're in a process of change, and we go through like micro changes, but also big changes in our lives, what do you need to remember while you're going through that transformation? And I mean it from a soulful place. And you can even journal with this prompt, even if you don't feel like you're going through any big change at the moment, so that you can remember that when you are. So Sinead, that is it for for this card. And I guess, for anyone in the membership, we have a whole mythic ancestor profile on Étaín this month that's available to you now. And we have our upcoming fairy tale Kaylee, which is on the 23rd of October, where I'll share the wooing of Étaín, and we'll metabolize her through our bodies through the movement practice. So this myth and movement class. And, if you want to invite a friend or anything, I will link how to do that in the email as well. That will go with this video. So just taking a moment now, just again to honor the fire of transformation, the spark of transformation that is alive in this tale of Étaín and is a potentiality within us all. And just honoring this beautiful image, this beautiful ancestor who carries that image of the soul from us. Martian, Atashe, and so it is. So just wishing you every blessing on this full moon, and we'll be chatting again soon. Slán for now.